Austin Turner, the 35-year-old CEO of one of Manhattan's most successful corporations, stood in his corner office overlooking the city that never slept. From humble beginnings, he had built an empire based on ruthless precision, unwavering control, and an instinct that rarely failed him. To the world he had it all: wealth, power, a luxurious penthouse, and a beautiful wife. But beneath the gleaming surface of his perfect life, cracks had started to form. Today, a deal sat on his desk, a deal that promised expansion, growth, and unimaginable profits. David Matthews, a sharp businessman with a polished smile and shadowy past, had brought it forward. On paper, the offer was flawless, too flawless. Austin's instincts told him something wasn't right. He leaned back in his leather chair, eyes narrowed at the neatly stacked contract. Every page had been studied and restudied. Still, it didn't sit well with him. A nagging voice at the back of his mind whispered doubts he couldn't ignore. The sharp buzz of his phone broke his thoughts. It was a message from Charlotte, his wife. Charlotte. "Austin, how long are you going to keep me waiting? You need to sign the deal today. This is our future." Austin sighed, setting the phone down with a tight jaw. Charlotte had been pushing this deal for weeks, more aggressively than usual. Her charm had slowly turned into pressure. 7 years ago, their marriage had bloomed from love and shared dreams. Now it felt like a partnership forged for gain, image, and power. She craved luxury, recognition, the elite life of endless vacations and red carpets. Was she truly supporting him? Or was she chasing something else? By evening, Austin walked into their penthouse, greeted by silence and the faint aroma of garlic and rosemary. Charlotte stood in the kitchen, her every move graceful and deliberate. She looked perfect as always. Perfect. Smile, perfect dress, perfect timing. "Dinner's ready," she said sweetly, handing him a glass of red wine. He forced a smile and nodded. "Thanks. How was your day?" she asked, placing plates on the table with an elegance that felt rehearsed. Austin shrugged. "Long. Complicated." She gave a sympathetic nod, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I made your favorite, steak. I thought we could celebrate." Celebrate what? The pressure she kept mounting, the fact that she cared more about the rewards than the risks. As they sat to eat, Charlotte's smile lingered, but her eyes were sharp, watching, waiting. "Have you signed the contract yet?" she asked casually. Austin froze for a moment, then slowly set his wine down. "Not yet. I need more time." Her smile cracked, just for a second. "Time? Austin, we've gone over this again and again. This is the deal that changes everything." "Exactly," he said, his voice firm. "That's why I can't rush it." Charlotte's eyes hardened. She looked less like a partner and more like someone with her own agenda. The next morning, Austin arrived at his office early. The city below pulsed with energy, but he felt isolated, as if he were walking into a trap he couldn't yet see. Something was wrong, and he needed answers, fast. As he reviewed the files again, a soft knock interrupted him. It was Emily Lawson. She was barely 18, the daughter of one of the cleaning staff. Smart, quiet, and curious. Austin had seen her around the office building before, usually helping her mother after school hours. "I'm sorry, Mr. Turner," she said nervously, holding a folder. "I wasn't supposed to say anything, but I think there's something wrong with that contract." Austin blinked. "Excuse me?" Emily stepped forward and placed a document on his desk. "I was cleaning the conference room yesterday. They didn't see me, but I found this copy of an earlier version of the contract. It's different. The profit margins, the offshore accounts, David Matthews changed the numbers. And your name, it's tied to liabilities you didn't agree to." Austin stared at the papers, scanning the fine print. She was right. This version was subtly altered, enough to look legitimate, but designed to trap him in a fraud scheme if things went south. It would ruin his name, his company, everything. How? "Do you know all this?" he asked, stunned. "I want to be a forensic accountant," Emily said quietly. "I study contracts for fun. And my mom, she's worked here for 10 years. You've always treated her with respect. I didn't want to see you fall into something like this." Austin felt the room spin. He had nearly walked into a trap potentially orchestrated not just by Matthews, but possibly by Charlotte too. He thanked Emily and promised her protection and confidentiality. As she left the room, he sat back in his chair, anger and betrayal boiling inside him. He replayed every conversation with David, every look from Charlotte, the pressure, the urgency. It all made sense now. They had planned this. That night he confronted Charlotte. "I know what's going on," he said, holding up the original contract. "I know Matthews doctored the deal, and I think you knew too." Charlotte's face paled, then shifted into a cold smile. "And what if I did? You never let me be a part of your world, Austin. This was my chance. You were willing to destroy me for that chance?" Her eyes flickered with emotion. Regret, maybe, but not enough. Austin stepped away, his voice calm but firm. "This marriage, this life, we built it on trust, and you broke it." Charlotte didn't follow him as he walked out the door. In the weeks that followed, Austin publicly cut ties with David Matthews, exposing the fraud. Emily received a scholarship funded quietly by Austin himself. He never told her, only smiled when she came to visit the office. Austin learned a hard truth. Not every betrayal comes with warning signs. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones holding the knife. But he also learned that even in a city of shadows, the smallest light, like a quiet girl with a sharp mind, can show you the truth. And sometimes surviving betrayal doesn't just save your company, it saves your soul. There were just too many unanswered questions. Austin glanced at her and then really looked. Her flawless hair, her perfect makeup, her breathtaking dress. But beneath the surface was a woman driven by something more. She wanted control, to push him to the edge until he snapped. Yes, he loved her. But tonight, for the first time, he wondered if he truly knew who she was. As usual, their conversation ended in the same frustrating loop. Charlotte making demands, and Austin swallowed in uncertainty. He pushed his plate aside, appetite gone. The pressure of everything, Charlotte, the contract, Matthews, was suffocating. He stood, murmured an excuse, and turned toward his office. "Don't forget to call Matthews," Charlotte called after him, her voice crisp, already back in control. "We need this deal, Austin. For us." He nodded, but his gut twisted tighter. Something about Matthews, something about the deal itself. It just didn't sit right. Was he over-analyzing? Was he about to sabotage something good with his doubt? Austin entered his office, each step heavier than the last. His phone buzzed. Matthews, the moment was here. He sank into his chair, the dim glow of his desk lamp casting long shadows across papers strewn over the desk. The contract sat in front of him, the one everyone said was a golden ticket. But tonight, it felt more like a trap. He flipped through the pages, faster now, as his pulse quickened. What once seemed like opportunity now looked wrong. One clause caught his eye. Minor, but off. A signature that should have been his. The handwriting looked too clean, the date too exact, too perfect. He froze. That wasn't his signature. His eyes darted to the bottom of another page, another unfamiliar signature, another forged detail. His blood went cold. It wasn't just wrong, it was fake. The entire contract had been tampered with. His thoughts spiraled. How had Matthews pulled this off? Or worse, was he just a front for something more sinister? Someone closer? Just then, a gentle knock interrupted his spiral. He looked up, startled. It was Emily Lawson, the teenage daughter of one of the cleaning staff. She hovered in the doorway, nervous but determined, something clutched in her hands. "Mr. Turner," she said quietly, "I think I found something." "You might want to see this." He gestured her inside, still mentally untangling the forged pages. Emily walked in and handed him a small bundle of papers. He barely breathed as he saw what they were. Documents. Ones he had never seen, or ones that had gone missing weeks ago, originals, hidden deep in a drawer. "My mom, Victoria," Emily began, her voice careful. "She was cleaning your office last week and noticed something strange. She didn't say anything then, but when she saw signatures that didn't match, she got scared." Austin's eyes scanned the documents, heart pounding. Victoria had noticed the inconsistencies before he had, but she'd stayed silent, worried about the consequences. Emily continued, explaining how her mother had quietly gathered what she could. She'd been trying to protect him without knowing the full picture. "My mom's scared," Emily said softly. "She thinks someone's setting you up." Emily continued, explaining how her mother had quietly gathered what she could. She'd been trying to protect him without knowing the full picture. "My mom's scared," Emily said softly. "She thinks someone's setting you up." Austin leaned back in his chair, mind racing. If Victoria had seen it, someone else had to be involved, someone who knew the inner workings of his company. His thoughts circled back. Charlotte. She'd been different lately, pushing for the deal, avoiding specifics, distracted. Was she part of this? Could she be? Austin knew he had to act. He couldn't trust anyone, not yet, not even his wife. He reopened every document tied to Matthews. The deeper he looked, the uglier it got. Hidden clauses, misleading terms, and clever wording meant to deceive. Matthews was a puppet. There was something larger at play, and all signs began pointing to Charlotte. The way she insisted he sign without questions, her pressure, her evasiveness. But what was her motive? One late afternoon, as he left work, Austin caught sight of something across the street that stopped him cold. Through the glass of a cozy cafe, he saw them, Charlotte and Matthews, sitting together, too close. Her hand rested on his arm. She leaned in, whispering. Matthews smiled, a wide, easy smile Austin had never seen from him before. It wasn't just business. It was personal, and in that quiet, candid moment, Austin's world shifted. The truth wasn't just in forged signatures or shady clauses. It was right in front of him, in Charlotte's touch, in Matthew's expression. They had been playing him from the start, and now he knew. Austin froze, unable to believe what he was seeing. His mind went blank, heart thudding like a war drum. In his chest, he had always known Charlotte loved luxury, the designer dresses, expensive wine, and weekend getaways. But this was betrayal on a level he never saw coming. He stood in the dim light of the parking garage across the street, hidden by shadows, watching the woman he built a life with lean in close to the very man he was trying to bring down. David Matthews. It weren't just talking. They were sharing secrets, smiles, and something far more intimate than words. Charlotte's hand briefly touched David's. She laughed at something he said. It wasn't business. It was personal. Austin's phone buzzed. His stomach dropped as he pulled it from his pocket. A message from Charlotte. "We need to talk. Now." It was like she knew. How? Had she seen him? Had Matthews warned her? Or was this just coincidence? His fingers trembled as he typed, "Where are you?" Her reply came almost immediately. "I'm waiting for you at home. Please, Austin, come back." He stared at the message, heart racing, emotions tearing through him like a storm. Should he go back? Confront her? Pretend he didn't see anything? And give her a chance to explain? Or was it already too late? Hours later, Austin stood at the doorstep of the home they once called their haven. The lights inside were dim. Charlotte was already pacing in the living room, visibly anxious. The moment she saw him, she rushed forward. "Austin," she whispered, voice cracking, "I swear it's not what you think." But he heard it. The guilt, the desperation, and deep beneath it, the fear. He stepped back, his voice cold. "Then what is it, Charlotte? Why were you with Matthews? What are you hiding from me?" Charlotte stopped. Her shoulders dropped. She looked away. For a long moment, silence filled the room like smoke. Then finally she spoke, her voice small. "David, he threatened me. He said if I didn't convince you to sign that contract, he'd ruin us, everything we built. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was protecting us." Austin's heart cracked, so it was true. The woman he loved, the woman he trusted more than anyone, was working against him. The life they built was built on lies, her fear, her betrayal. He turned away, not knowing whether to scream or collapse. But that night, something inside him shifted. He wouldn't fall apart. He would fight back. Days later, Austin stood in his office, surrounded by boxes of documents, late-night coffee cups, and pure determination. What had once been his empire was now rubble. But he wasn't alone. Victoria Lawson stood by his side, the sharp, fearless attorney who had been quietly helping him investigate David Matthews. Unlike everyone else, Victoria hadn't doubted him. She believed in his instincts, and her discoveries had changed everything. She found it all. Hidden files, encrypted records, offshore transfers. David Matthews wasn't just a corrupt businessman. He was running a full-blown criminal operation. Money laundering, insider trading, even ties to Albert Sinclair, a known crime boss who had avoided prosecution for over a decade. Worse, Charlotte was involved, deeply. Maybe it started with fear. But somewhere along the way, she became part of it. There was no turning back now. With Victoria's help, Austin began building a case. Every contract, every wire transfer, every manipulated report. But it didn't take long before the threats began. Cryptic texts, anonymous voicemails, men watching his house. Victoria received strange phone calls at night, someone breathing heavily on the other end. Then silence. But neither of them backed down. They knew the risk, and they were ready. Finally, the trial began. The courtroom buzzed with tension, cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and on the other side of the room sat David Matthews, polished as ever in a tailored navy suit. But behind those cold eyes, Austin could see it now. Fear. Charlotte was there too, her face unreadable, her posture rigid. She hadn't spoken to Austin since that night, and now he had no idea what she would do. Would she testify? Would she protect Matthews, or would she finally tell the truth? The prosecution began. Victoria was a force, calm, precise, ruthless. One by one, she laid out the evidence, offshore accounts, shell companies, falsified tax documents. She even presented a secret recording of Charlotte's meeting with Matthews, where they discussed manipulating Austin. Each revelation shattered what little illusion remained. Matthews tried to deny it all, blamed underlings, claimed ignorance, but the mountain of evidence was too high, too damning. Then came the moment one expected. Charlotte took the stand. The courtroom fell silent. She looked at Austin just for a second, and then down at her hands. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. She admitted everything. How Matthews lured her in, how she was manipulated, how she crossed line after line, telling herself it was for the greater good, until she couldn't tell the difference anymore. "I thought I was protecting him," she said softly, motioning toward Austin. "But in the end, I was only protecting myself." Austin closed his eyes. It didn't fix what she had done. It didn't erase the betrayal, but it was the truth. And sometimes, that's all that's left. As the final arguments closed and the jury deliberated, Austin stood outside the courthouse beside Victoria. The sky was gray, heavy with rain that hadn't yet come. "It's not over," he said. "No," Victoria agreed. "But it's a start." David Matthews would face years behind bars. Charlotte, maybe less, maybe more. The justice system would decide that. But for Austin Turner, the man who had everything taken from him, then rebuilt himself from the ashes, the real battle was already won. He found the truth, and he didn't run from it. The documents, the forged signatures, the secret bank accounts, everything pointed directly to him and Charlotte. She just sat there, her head bowed low, unable to meet Austin's eyes. The courtroom was silent, thick with the weight of judgment. As the trial neared its end, Austin felt a strange stillness inside him. He had come so far, fought so hard. Now, all he could do was wait. The jury deliberated for hours, but deep down, Austin already knew. The truth had been revealed, the lies laid bare. There was no going back. When the verdict was read aloud, time seemed to freeze. David Matthews, Charlotte Turner, and Albert Sinclair, guilty of conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering. Sentenced to 10 years in federal prison, effective immediately. A wave of relief washed over Austin, but it didn't feel like victory. Not entirely, because along with justice, he had also lost his marriage, his trust, his peace. The betrayal had left a mark. And though the courtroom battle was over, the emotional scars remained. In the weeks that followed, Austin threw himself into rebuilding what had been broken: his company, his name, his future. It wasn't easy, but with Victoria by his side, he found his footing again. She had been his constant, sharp, loyal, and unwavering when everything else around him had fallen apart. Victoria continued her path as a powerhouse attorney, taking on cases for those who had been silenced, just like she had done for Austin. Her name now carried weight, but more than that, it carried purpose. As for Austin, he knew this wasn't the end of his story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. The business world had shown him how brutal it could be, but it had also taught him something invaluable. True, success isn't measured by wealth or power. It's measured by integrity, by how you rise after falling, by the strength to walk away from those who don't value your heart. One quiet evening, as the city lights flickered beyond his office window, Austin sat alone, reflecting. He glanced at a photo from his past. Charlotte and him, smiling in front of their home. That version of himself, the one who believed love was enough, who thought loyalty was forever, that man was gone. In his place stood someone wiser, stronger, a man who would never again let anyone weaponize his kindness. He picked up his phone and dialed. Victoria answered on the first ring. "Victoria," he said, his voice calm, "I just wanted to thank you. You didn't just help me win a case. You helped me find myself again." There was a pause on the line. Then she replied, soft but firm. "You're welcome, Austin. But remember, winning in court is one thing. The real victory is how you choose to live after." He smiled, and for the first time in a long, long while, he was ready to let go, ready to begin again, ready to live without fear. What do you think of Austin's journey? If you were in his shoes, could you forgive Charlotte? Or would the betrayal be too much to overcome? Tell us in the comments. Type 100 if you felt the emotion behind this story, and let us know where you're watching from. Thanks for watching. Do you think Charlotte's actions were justified by fear, or were they driven by greed? If you were in Austin's shoes, would you ever forgive her? Or walk away for good? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this one.